Dutch Oven Peach Cobbler. Dutch Oven Cobbler. A dessert that crossed a continent in a wagon from the high valleys of Utah, where the pioneers carried their heavy iron pots 1,000 miles, and where the cobbler still bakes to this day under a lid of glowing coals. This is the taste of the trail's end. They will tell you a cobbler is an easy thing. And it is. That is the whole point of it. The old camp cooks knew that the iron pot asks for patience, not skill. You cannot see inside. You cannot stir. You can only trust the coals and wait. The best cobbler was never the fanciest. It was the one that fed the most people around the same fire. Servings 6. 20 minutes to prepare, 40 minutes over the coals, 10 minutes to rest. 4 pounds of ripe peaches, half a cup of honey, 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, and half a teaspoon of cinnamon, 2 cups of flour, 1 tablespoon of baking powder, half a teaspoon of salt, half a cup of butter, and 3/4 of a cup of buttermilk. Begin in the pot itself. Tumble 4 pounds of sliced peaches into a 12-inch cast iron Dutch oven. Pour half a cup of honey over them. Add 2 tablespoons of cornstarch and half a teaspoon of cinnamon. Now, with your hands, turn it all together, gently, until every slice is glossed and gold. The fruit will begin to weep its syrup almost at once. Now the crust. In a separate bowl, whisk together 2 cups of flour, 1 tablespoon of baking powder, and half a teaspoon of salt. Let the dry things fall through your fingers. This is the quietest part. Just flour and air and the soft sound of the whisk against the bowl. Add half a cup of cold butter. Cut it into the flour, working it with your fingertips until the whole bowl turns to coarse, buttery crumbs. Then pour in 3/4 of a cup of buttermilk. Stir it, only just, until a loose, shaggy dough comes together. Do not knead it. Do not smooth it. A drop biscuit wants to be left a little wild. Now the covering. Take up a spoon and drop the dough over the peaches, 1 soft mound at a time. 6 of them, spaced across the fruit like stones set in a stream. They will not meet. They are not meant to. As they bake, they will rise and spread and reach for one another across the bubbling gold. Set the heavy lid in place. Now the fire. 10 coals beneath the pot and 14 coals across the lid. That is the pioneer's ratio. Twice as many above as below. The heat of an oven at 375 degrees. And now you wait 40 minutes. You do not lift the lid. You only listen. When the 40 minutes are gone, lift the lid at last. The biscuits have risen golden and craggy, the peaches bubbling dark and sweet beneath them. Draw the pot off the coals and let it rest 10 quiet minutes while the juices settle and thicken into syrup. The waiting, even now, is not quite over. The Dutch oven came west in the wagons. When the Mormon pioneers crossed the plains in 1847, cast iron was among the few heavy things worth its weight. One pot could fry and boil and bake. In a treeless country with no ovens for 1,000 miles, the iron pot and a bed of coals were the whole kitchen. Long before the wagons, these valleys belonged to the Ute, and the Shoshone, and the Paiute, Pute. They had followed the seasons through this high desert for centuries. The settlers named their new land Deseret, an old word, they said, for the honeybee, a land meant to be worked together like a hive. The pioneers planted peaches almost as soon as they arrived. In the warm valleys along the Wasatch, the orchards took hold and thrived. Towns like Brigham City, built whole festivals around the harvest, and the cobbler, baked in the same iron pots that had crossed the plains, became the sweet ending to a hard and hopeful century. Today, the Dutch oven is Utah's official state cooking pot. Families still gather around it, at reunions, at campsites, in backyards. 14 coals on the lid, 10 below, the old ratio unchanged. The peach cobbler is the dish that ends the evening. It is passed, still warm, from the heavy iron into waiting bowls. 6 bowls filled from the pot. The biscuit gone soft where the syrup has soaked it. Steam rising into the cool evening air. This is the rarest kind of recipe, one that has survived not because it was refined, but because it was shared. A dessert built for a crowd, cooked over a common fire. It survives because it was never trying to be impressive. It was only trying to feed the people who loved it. And the table, at last, is set.